Hi, my name is Bailey Ulm, and I'm a senior at Holly Springs High School, and this is my story. So I'll start off my story probably back in 8th grade. It was the first time I ever been to like a real church, and I was just learning all these different things about like what God was, and knowing that I was always a rule follower and like a good girl throughout middle school and elementary school. I always thought that having God in my life just made me even better. And so in 8th grade and 9th grade, I started looking down on all my friends when they started drinking and partying and doing like all these different things. I thought that I was better than them because I thought that I was like a Christian and I followed all these rules. But that turned me into a very lonely person. And most of my 9th grade year, I spent eating lunch alone, crying in my teacher's room. So that was probably one of the lowest points in my life. And then following that year, I decided that I wasn't going to live a life that was better than everybody else. So I started joining in with them, and I started drinking, and I started partying, and I started smoking weed and just doing all these things that I never thought I would ever be doing in my life. So that was probably 9th, 10th, and 11th grade that I was doing all these things because I thought that God forgave me and God did all these things for me. So why does it matter if I go and I do these terrible things to myself and to my friends and to my family? Okay, so the summer between my junior and senior year was probably one of the most important summers I've ever had. In June, well, I'll start off. June 15th, I got really drunk and really high, and it was the day before I was supposed to leave for Big Stuff Camp. And that Sunday, the 16th, I met with my 2 small group leaders, and I asked them, or they asked me, what do you want to get from Big Stuff Camp? And I was like, I really am lost, and I don't know who I am anymore. And I've got lost in all this worldly things, and I just want to know what God created me to be. And so the next day, we left for Big Stuff Camp, and that probably was one of the biggest things that ever changed my life. During that week, there was a woman that talked there, and she was talking about who God created you to be, because God doesn't define you as your past mistakes or the mistakes you're currently making, but He defines you as what He created you to be, and He created you to be perfect and holy. And that really stuck with me because I had lived my whole life thinking that I was supposed to be good to earn God's grace, and it's kind of like the opposite, that God's grace and God's love comes to you even at your lowest and darkest points. And so that week I decided to change my life because that's not who God created me to be. After camp, I came back and I hit the real world running, and I started going back to church, and I started serving more and more in Kid City and Hope Middle School. And so the biggest thing that helped me keep myself accountable was my closest friends and my small group leaders just always being there for me and always having someone to talk to. They really helped me be accountable and stuff for that. God is making a change in my life, and He's making a change for the better, and that's what He wants out of all of us. When you start a relationship with God, He's not asking you to be perfect, but He's asking you to love Him and have Him change your life even more than anything in this world could ever do. And so one thing that really stuck with me from this past summer was the verse 1 John 4:4, which says, "Greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world." And it really stuck with me because greater is God who is in me than anything in this world that could ever live up to His love and His mercy and His everlasting grace. And no matter how many times I may fail, that He'll always be there for me, and that nothing in this world could ever compare to that. And this is my story.